So I'm going to tell you today how I turned a flaw into a superpower. A flaw into a superpower. A flaw into a superpower. Oh, you guys are good! No detention for you. Yes. Don't answer this out loud, but I want you to think, who do you know that has an insecurity, who has a flaw, has a setback, who is facing adversity? Adversity is a difficult or a struggle period. It could be something you were diagnosed with. It could be something that happened to you, a traumatic event. It could be a neighbour. It could be the person sitting next to you. Or it could even be you. My adversity, my flaw, my setback is Tourette syndrome. Now, does anyone know what Tourette syndrome is? All right. See those hands again? Here we go. Where was it? All right. Okay, up the back there. I saw a hand. Put it up again. Who put it up? Who put up the hand there? Oh, look at all the teachers are like, oh, no, I know what he's going to do. I know what happens when I put a hand up. Who wants to explain it? I give this talk in schools all over, and I gave this talk at a school recently, and a little lovely grade 5 kid got up. I know what it is. I said, all right, here you go. He goes, it's when you have mental problems and you're crazy, and my sister's got it, and my mum, she doesn't really know what to do, and mum and dad are fighting. I was like, okay, excellent. In front of 2,000 students. Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition made up of tics, both motor and vocal tics. You must have both motor and vocal to be classified as Tourette's. You must display these tics for at least 1 year before you're diagnosed. Underneath the Tourette's umbrella are many other neurological conditions that come with it. For example, ADHD. I have ADHD. There's also OCD, autism, ODD, anxiety, depression. So many of these others fall under it. The best way to describe a tic is like having an itch on your arm. So you can sit there and go, scratch it subconsciously. Someone goes, you scratch your arm? Didn't even realise. That's what happens. Everybody's brain self-regulates itself by firing off signals to the body. Like wiggle your toes, click your fingers, squeeze your butt cheeks. But everybody, that's to keep it alive, like an engine, like a piston, an engine. But everybody's brain has a gate to stop those unwanted signals firing through. People with Tourette's have a weak or no gate, so those signals fire through. The best way to describe a tic when you get it right, like when you get that tic just right, it's like that feeling when you put a cotton bud in your ear and you go, oh. Like when you get it out, it's like, wow, that was like a stone in your shoe, like, oh, I needed to get that. Now there is a thing called suppressing. Many students do this, and in the Tourette's world, we say do not suppress. So suppressing your tic is just the same as not blinking. You can go for as long as you can without blinking, but what happens is it fatigues your eyes, it gets frustrating, it gets tiring, it annoys you, and you end up blinking more anyway. So we never say suppress. Now I was born with Tourette's. We thought that it started from a very young child. Something that happens is a traumatic event will trigger it. So something could have happened when I was a child, I had an infection, went into hospital, bam, Tourette's is now a part of my life. But growing up in the 90s, we had no idea what Tourette's was. Other than the movie Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, we had no idea what Tourette's syndrome was. And so I had no idea. I called them habits. And I remember I was on the edge of my bed as a kid, praying to God, and Mum overheard me. And I said, God, take these habits away from me. And then we ended up getting a diagnosis, and then, bam, I've got Tourette's. Who wants to see my tics? One person, everybody else, you see you at Smoke Hub, and I'll show you. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand here, and I want everybody to collectively count how many tics I show you, okay? So like 1, 2, can we do that? Yes. Right, now I have done this to many teachers before, and I give that instruction, and then I do the tic, and they go, so I'm going to be handing out gold stars for you teachers, okay? Let's count collectively. All right. No. So everybody collectively has to go 1, 2. Okay, and this, by the way, that's just 1. All right? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, about 14. Sometimes it's 18, sometimes it's 14, you never know, okay? Potato, tomato. This one is really funny. So the way that started is I was training for a marathon and I was doing a lot of running. Rod, you'll know exactly about this. And so what happens is when you go running, your shirt rubs against your nipples. And I kept having to itch it. And I thought, I know what I'll do, I'll run without a shirt on. But the problem is that became a tick. So I'm running down. What's wrong with that guy? Someone call the police. Or this one. That was one of my favorites because when I walk down the street, and someone's walking towards me, they think I'm saying hello to them. But I don't want to be a weirdo and be like, I don't know you. I don't know you. I have Tourette's, okay? I don't know you. That would be weird. So I just pretend I know them. G'day, Barry, you well? Say good day to Cheryl for me. Okay. See you at Christmas. Oh, you dirty dog. Or, you know, when you go, you catch an aeroplane or you watch a movie and there's always a battle for the armrest? I win that battle every time. And the guy next to me goes, what are you doing? And I go, so not only do I get both armrests, but I don't get to talk to a stranger on an aeroplane. I just started going to the gym, can you tell? I'm all swole, yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I go to one of those big, you know, the muscle gyms. You've got World Gym with all the big buff people with the, you know, the things. And I'll be sitting there on the bench press in between sets, and I'll go. He was like, bro, what are you looking at? You want to go, bro? What's happening? But the best thing, I've had that situation so many times in my life where people think I'm trying to fight them. So I go like this. The best thing ever is I keep going and act crazy. And they're like, I don't want to fight that guy. I remember when I was young, I said to my mum, I want to be in the army. She goes, I'm sorry, Seamus, I don't think they're going to take someone who has Tourette's in the military. I was like, I could probably join the band and play the drums. Or the trumpet. Let's face it, I'm not going to be a sniper, am I? Come in, Seamus. You're the best sniper in the Australian military. We need your steady hands to take out Vladimir Putin. Yeah, this is Seamus here, best sniper in the world. Target in sight. I'll fire when ready. I missed! Vladimir's alive! So there is no cure for Tourette syndrome. My cure after 31 years is being able to make a joke about it, and my sense of humour. That is my cure. But when I was growing up, when I was in primary school, when I was in high school, I hated it. I didn't want it. I didn't ask to have Tourette's. They were the cards that I was dealt. I remember I would have tick fits. I would grunt so hard I would ruin my voice box. I'd flick my head so hard I would give myself a headache. Bang my knees together so hard, leaving big bruises. And I would get so frustrated because I hated them. They made me different from everyone else, and I didn't like them. I didn't want them. I would get so frustrated I would come home from school and I would just collapse out of frustration. And I remember I used to punch myself in the head as hard as I can, and that wasn't a tick. That was because I hated them. And in turn, I began to hate myself for having them. And I wanted them gone. And I remember I used to have an OCD-related tic. So for example, if I stubbed one toe, I'd have to stub the other toe at the exact same pressure, the exact same force, the exact same angle. If I bump one leg, I'd have to bump the other. Now when the kids at school found this out, they cornered me in a room and would slap me across the face as hard as they could and stand back and watch as I had to even it out and slap the other side. They would laugh and they'd do it again. And then the frustrating comments would come. Because Tourette's is such a visual thing, you're a standout for those comments. Stop doing it, you freak. Seamus, take your medication. Seamus, you're a retard. And over time, this build-up, I began to hate them so much that as a defense mechanism, I decided to just pretend I didn't have them. I just ignored them. And when people would double take it, I'd look away. Or if someone would ask, why did you just do that? I'd come up with a deflection comment like, I just had a whole bunch of Red Bull, and run away. Because I wanted to be normal like everybody else. And with ADHD as well, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't concentrate. I sucked at school. I hated it. I never wanted to be there. I was always in trouble. This constant build-up was so frustrating. And I remember when I graduated school, seriously, I failed school. I failed every subject. When I graduated, I could barely read or write. I spelled skateboard with the number 8 in it. Now, when I was a child, well, what did you want to be, sir? What did you want to be when you grew up? A farmer? Are you a farmer? Yes! I love that. When I was a kid, when I was young, all I wanted to be was on television. All I wanted to be was like Carl Stefanovic, Rove Live, Grayton Kennedy. What television station in their right mind would let a kid with ADHD, Tourette's, couldn't sit still, couldn't concentrate, couldn't read or write, be on TV? Could you imagine? And now we're going to cross the line over to Seamus Evans with the weather report. Hi guys, yeah, down here on the Gold Coast, the weather's going to be, oh look, there's a dog! It wasn't going to work. However, when I was 18, fresh out of school, just graduated, I was lucky enough to get a job on a kids' television show called Toasted TV. Who remembers Toasted TV? This was great! Whose birthday's coming up? We all know what's about to happen, don't we? That's why you What do you want for Christmas? Yeah. A money tree! When I got this job on Toasted TV, it was like waking up Christmas morning, unwrapping it, and there was a money tree. That amazing feeling. I was so over the moon. I was like, yes! I couldn't do anything else. I failed school. This was it. This is all I ever wanted to do. Now, a week into the job, my boss pulled me aside and said, hey, Seamus, what's going on? Why do you keep twitching like that? Because I wasn't forthcoming in telling them. I said, I've got Tourette syndrome. Why are we afraid of the dark as children? Because we don't know what's in it. And that was the same approach he had. And he thought, geez, I've just hired this kid with Tourette's. Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So he said, listen, you're still under probation. So if Tourette's is going to be a problem, then we'll just fire you and get someone else. Straight away, my heart sank. It was like getting that money tree Christmas morning with someone taking away before I even got a chance to get the gold coins from a money tree. My heart sank. These stupid things that I didn't want were going to stop me from achieving what I wanted to do. The only thing that I wanted, they were going to stand in the way. So right then and there, I was faced with two options. One, just quit. I've got Tourette's. What am I, crazy? I'm not going to be on TV. I can barely read or write. Or two, why don't I go for it? I've already got the job. What's going to happen? They're going to fire me? Well, let's see how long I can last. So I decided to get to work. And the first thing I needed to do, the first step, was acceptance. I needed to accept the fact that I was different. I needed to accept the fact that I had Tourette's. I needed to accept it and own it. It's like when your car breaks down. You open up the bonnet to see what's wrong with the engine. And through doing that, I was able to. And I remember thinking, okay, I'd wake up in the morning and say, how am I feeling? Am I tired? Am I angry? Am I stressed? Am I anxious? Am I happy? Am I excited? Am I hungry? And I worked out the different triggers, the emotional triggers for Tourette's. And I worked out it's anxiety, fatigue, stress, talking about Tourette's, thinking about Tourette's, people asking questions about Tourette's, thinking that people are looking at your Tourette's. And then what I would do is I would register all of those tics, all of those signals that my brain was following. Brain was telling me, oh, I've got a tic. And I worked out, hang on, how can I scratch that itch without actually scratching it? And I worked out that I can scratch it a different way. Now, if I ticked 200 times in a day, over 3 months, that's 18,000 ticks. Now, in the world of aviation, you only need 10,000 hours to become a pilot. So in the world of Tourette syndrome, I'm a Qantas International fighter pilot. And at every tick I had, I would explore, I would maneuver, I would redirect, I would manipulate. And I would try and disguise it into another tick so I could still get that feeling without it being so visual. I ended up working on Toaster TV for 4 years. They were going to fire me after the first week because I had Tourette's. I lasted 4 years. And let me tell you, this is the most fun I ever had. At 18 years of age, I travelled all over Australia. I went to the Longreach Agricultural College and I sheared a sheep. The poor thing, I cut it a few times. And the guy was like, yeah, right, mate, that happens all the time. I killed a few yesterday. I was like, they breed them tough out here. I went all over Australia. I saw some of the best places, hosting the show from a caravan in different small country towns. I went over to America. Who loves Star Wars? Don't lie, there's a couple of, yeah, thank you. Now, I went to where they make Star Wars, right? Where George Lucas's big film company is. And no one knows when he's going to turn up. They only know when he's there because they see him, and everyone knows when he's been. That's how high tech it is. Now, we went over there with a Scandinavian journalist to do some filming. And I remember waiting in a lobby and my ADHD was kicking on. And I look over and I see just like 20 people in business who are briefcase, very serious. And then I see this guy who looks like George Costanza in front of him, like just casual clothes, running shoes, plaid shirt. I was like, who's that guy? That's George Lucas. And the Scandinavian journalist went, look, it's Steven Spielberg. I went over to New Zealand where they make Lord of the Rings. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and I held the green suit that Andy Serkis, the actor who plays Gollum, wears. I was like, wow. We used to have a segment called Chuck It In, where fans would write in ingredients to put into a blender, and we'd have to drink it. And it would be like ice cream, Tabasco sauce, sardines, blue cheese, Coca-Cola, and you blend it up. That was the best fun ever. Now, what happened through that acceptance journey? Because I accepted that I was different. I accepted my ADHD. I accepted my Tourette's. I was able to harness it. And actually, I discovered a newfound confidence in myself because it wasn't only the Tourette's that I accepted, but it was my likes, my dislikes, my personality. And I worked out that I hate sport. I don't like it. I had no interest in the football last night. And growing up in an all-boys school where sport was very sought after, it took me a long time to be able to tell my friends, you know what, I don't like sport. You know how many conversations I've had where I'm like, oh yeah, that game, did you see that ref? He should be locked up. But through that acceptance journey, I became confident, more confident. You know what, I don't like it. You know what, I do like listening to Madonna. You know what, I do like listening to One Direction. And I became so confident that after 4 years, I got a tap on the shoulder from the producer of Totally Wild. I tapped me on the shoulder and said, Seamus, how do you want to move down to Adelaide and be a reporter for Totally Wild and give you a pay rise? I was like, yes! It's like waking up the next Christmas with a money weed. I was over the moon. But I was faced with those two decisions again. See, I failed school. I couldn't read or write. Toaster TV was a funny, colour and movement, improvisational type show, interviewing celebrities. Whereas Totally Wild was like a journalist's job, but for a kids' TV show, a lot of reading, a lot of researching, putting together a story, creating something. And I was faced with that decision. Seamus, you're 23. You can barely read or write. It's so embarrassing. Just quit. You know, you've come this far. Just get out, do something else. Or two, I don't know, go for it. I've come this far. Let's see how much further I can go. So I got to work. And every night before I went to sleep, I would read. I started out with kids' books, because that's how we learned to read. And then I would graduate into teenage novels, and then adult novels. And then I started reading magazines, newspapers, articles, blogs, reviews. And then I started exercising the activity of writing. I kept a journal. And then I started writing my own articles that never got published, or my own movie reviews. I ended up working on Totally Wild for 3 years. They were going to fire me after the first week. I lasted 7 years on television. Let me tell you, Totally Wild was amazing. I learned how to catch, by hand, brown snakes, inland taipans, tiger snakes, red-bellied blacks. I hate spiders, right? But I held a Far North Queensland barking tarantula. Do you know why they call them barking tarantulas? Because they rub their back legs together and go. It's like they've got Tourette's themselves, a little Tourette's tarantula. He probably failed school too, the poor little raptors. I'm different. I had baby capuchin monkeys jumping all over me. I'll tell you, I'll let you in a little secret. I went diving with great white sharks in South Australia. And 2 weeks before we went, I got a phone call from the guy who runs the charters and said, mate, a pod of killer whales came through and killed 2 great white sharks. So there are no great white sharks around. Do you still want to come? I was like, this is a paid trip. Yes, of course I'm going to go. And we went out there on a little propeller plane, and then we went on this boat, 3-hour boat ride. We get there, put the cage down, nothing. I had an episode to shoot. Totally Wild had been on for 30 years. So we had hours of shark vision. So I was like, all right guys, now I'm going to check out some great whites. And I just went to Vision from 10 years ago. But the kids never knew. There was another story I'm going to let you in on this secret. A friend of mine said, hey Seamus, do you know what the collective noun for otters is? Because animals have collective nouns. A murder of crows, a parliament of owls, a pod of killer whales, a flamboyance of flamingos. He said, do you know what they call the collective noun for otters? I said, what? A business. A business of otters. I was like, that is amazing. I'm going to do a story on otters. And I wore a suit for the story, a little briefcase. I was like, today, it's time to get down to business. No, I'm not talking about high-rise buildings in the CBD with office politics. I mean a business of otters. And I was interviewing this week. So how many employees in this business? It was a great story, right? Lots of fun. Then the producer called me up. Said, hey, Shane, it's a great story, mate. Just doing some fact-checking. It's not actually called a business. They're called a bevy. My friend was just playing a prank on me. Now, the next day, the producer went on holidays. So I just let it through. So there's a whole generation of kids going, do you know, it's called a business of otters. Who wants to see my time on television? Hit it. Dun, dun, dun,
No signal.
Wait for the video. I met Ranger Stacey. She's amazing. When I first met her, I was 18, and I met her, and she goes, "Oh, Seamus, are you Italian?" I said, "No." I'm sorry. She goes, "Seamus, you're Irish." I said, "No, I'm actually Italian." She goes, "Ooh, Italian stallion." I was like, Ranger Stacey. Okay, how are we going with the video? Is there any audio by any chance? No, that's all right. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. All right. Here we go. We'll try it again. One. Yeah, full screen. G'day, Seamus. It's a record store day. Kicks off tomorrow. We're celebrating Australia. What's very impressive is you guys have been on the music range for like 20 years. Now, here on the Toast, we love giving nicknames. We're thinking for you maybe KJ. Are you cool with that? KJ's good. It's a little predictable. Well, very straight. Yeah. The Muppets. That's excellent. Well, we're both very excited to meet you guys. Now, obviously, we're here to talk about something very important. What's your favourite food?
How would you like to pay for that, sir?
Oh, just bang my face. It's an easy choice to make if you want them to look cool and trendy, just like my new Zip These debit card from People's Choice. Well, Jane, thank you so much for joining us on Totally Wild. It's great to have you, and it's good to have you in Australia. But can you explain to us what Roots and Shoots is all about? Chilpa is going back into his own environment. All right, come on, buddy. Oh, jeez. This is starting to be hard. Did I do it wrong?
No, well, not exactly textbook.
He's going to be back up on my quarrel in that minutes. But he's going to be okay now, isn't it? Fine, We've got a campfire, the southern sky, the stars shining, great company, and every man and his dog giving us a good unity. Have we had fun, everyone? Thank you. So how many ticks did you see me do in that video?
Hardly any.
Now, I've started a YouTube channel, right? Seamus Evans, you can follow me, give me a subscribe. And I've uploaded that up onto YouTube, and it's got 2,000 views. And I've watched it 1,998 times. So I know exactly how many ticks I did. 1. Through that acceptance journey, through understanding how my brain worked, what the triggers were, and registering the ticks, I was able to redirect them and manipulate them to be disguised into my body language. So for example, one of the things I used to do when I was interviewing people, I'd be like, oh, Guy Sebastian, so how did you come up with this song? Oh, okay. No way. So how many ticks did we count earlier when I showed you those 2 here? 14, okay. What we're going to do, can you count to 20 seconds? Yes? I want you to, when I say go, count to 20 in your head, 20 seconds, and when you get there, go stop! Everybody else, I want you to watch me as I stand here, and in your head, count how many ticks you think you see. Can we do that?
Yes.
Excellent. Oh, okay. Shout it out. How many did you see? 6. 1 million, 5, 1. I'm going to run through them. So what I did is I tensed my stomach, rolled my stomach, tensed my butt cheeks, my left butt cheek, my right butt cheek, tensed my left thigh, my right thigh. I pressed my heels together. I flicked my wrist as I checked my watch. I went, that person over there, which had nothing to do with anything. I pressed my tongue against the roof of my mouth and then against the bottom of my mouth. So what I was able to do was I was able to redirect them. I found what made me go, oh. I found what was the feeling that I wanted. And through that exploration, after accepting it, and through that exploration, I was able to redirect them and last 7 years on television, something that I never thought anyone thought that I was capable of actually doing. Now, after that acceptance journey, I discovered something. Because I accepted my loves, my likes, my flaws, my strengths, I accepted everything. I did some soul searching. And what happened is I discovered a passion. And I worked out that my passion wasn't actually television. Instead, it was radio. I wanted to be the next Kyle Sandilands. So, I quit my job on Totally Wild after 7 years, packed my little car and drove to Melbourne to aspire. Now, it's very important that I tell you this. I was 25. I had just done 7 years on television in my formative, impressionable years as a late teen, early 20s. I was getting recognised in streets, people were taking photos, I was giving autographs, I wasn't lining up to nightclubs. My ego was massive. I I thought so big of myself. And this mindset of, mate, I've been on television 7 years. I'll get a job like that, no problem. This will be easy. Guess what happened when I went to Melbourne? Nobody cared. Nobody cared that I was on television. And every email I sent was rejected. Every phone call I made was hung up on. Every metaphorical door I knocked on was slammed in my face. And for the first time, I experienced professional rejection. And what happened is I slipped into a deep depression. And anyone who experiences poor mental health knows that depression sucks. It's the worst. Anxiety sucks. Stress sucks. Not being able to get out of bed sucks. But I couldn't do anything else. This was it. I had to become determined. I had to build up something called resilience. Resilience is your ability to get back to normal after being knocked backwards. Resilience is your ability to get back to step one after being knocked off. Resilience is your ability to stand back up after being knocked down. But what's the point of getting up if you don't know what for? If you're going on a long distance drive and you don't know where your destination is, you're going to get lost in twists and turns. But I knew why. What is my destination? I wanted to be on breakfast radio, which gave me that reason to keep getting up. But I had this depression. So I had to do everything in my power and I had to become determined to build up my mental health so I could continue being rejected. So the first thing I did is I saw a psychologist. I had to get my mental health in order, and I still see one today. I believe in going to a psychologist to stay well, not get well. It's like if you turn up to the gym after, Christmas pudding on New Year's Day, it's a long journey to a six-pack. So that's how I view seeing a psychologist, maintaining a positive mental health. So that was the first thing I did. And the second thing was a gratitude journal. Does anyone know what a gratitude journal is? I had to write 3 things every day that I was grateful for. And it could have been as simple as, I'm grateful that the sun is shining. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful that I've got this opportunity to learn and grow. Whatever it was, I had to write something that I was grateful. It could have been really intimate and deep and detailed, or it could have been really surface-based. And the next one was a message to my inner child. Has anyone heard this? We all have a problem with imposter syndrome and our brain telling us that we're not good enough. Our deep little insecurity saying, you suck, you're not good enough, you can't do that, no one's going to like it. And my brain would play tricks on me. Seamus, you don't deserve this. Seamus, you're not funny. You suck. You'll never make it. So I had to overcompensate that and actively write down, Seamus, you are funny. Seamus, you do deserve this. Seamus, you are brave. Seamus, you are enough. Has anyone heard, you might know this, sir, being a farmer, growing crops. What do you grow? Mostly, but no crops. He's got some in the back house. Lucky it's full of teachers and not police. I'll go talk to me, the local copper. Anyway, have you heard the saying that when you talk to plants, they grow? My father did an experiment on tomatoes, and he got 5 tomatoes, and he cut them in half. He put one half in a bag, in a sandwich sealed bag, and he put the other half in another bag, and he wrote good on one and bad on the other. For about 2 weeks, 10 times a day, he would walk past them to the good ones and go, beautiful, ripe, juicy, sweet tomatoes. That's what he does to his crops out the back. You beautiful, you're so amazing. And then the ones that said bad, he goes, you suck, I hate you, you're disgusting. Now, over 2 weeks, the ones that said good, you could eat them. They were beautiful, juicy, red, ripe. The ones that said bad were moldy, disgusting, rotten, gross tomatoes. And that was what was happening in my mind during this process. After that depression state, I needed to be determined. So I needed to do everything in my power to overcompensate and change that negative self-talk. So doing the writing and everything in my power to continue. Now this went on for months. 8 months. I lived with a guy at the time who was a school captain of my school. He was very smart, he did very well in school, he was an engineer, and he was rich. So he's eating pizza, Thai, burgers, and I'm sitting there with mashed potato and a tin of tuna. Every day I wanted to quit, I wanted to give up. My brain playing tricks on me, just quit. And I had to say, just one more day. Get through today and quit tomorrow. Just one more step. Get through this week, quit next week. Get through this week, keep going. Don't give up. the difference between you and someone else who makes it is whoever gives up first. So I had to keep that in mind. And after 8 months, finally, I got a phone call from the Hit Network of Albury-Wodonga. Said, Seamus, how do you want to come and host the show in Albury-Wodonga for a breakfast show? I was like, yes! It's like the next birthday, waking up with a money egg. Got better every time. But what happened, I became obsessed and I threw myself into this job. I learned everything about radio from the ground up. I would constantly reach out and ask for advice and feedback to develop my content and my ability to communicate. I loved it. I was having the best time of my life. And then, 2 years after that, the boss of the Hit Network in Cairns called me up and said, Seamus, how do you want to move to Cairns and have the breakfast show up here? I was like, yes! It's like waking up your birthday morning and have a money tomato. And then 2 years after, I did breakfast radio for 5 years, and then 2 years after that, something happened. Now this is radio jargon, you've probably never heard of this thing before in your life, but something happened around the world called COVID-19. Anyone heard of it? And what happened, they called us in, and at this time I was pitching for a night show on Triple M around the country. That's what I was aiming for, that was my next step. And I was working with the executives on it, how we're going to get it across the line, and I got an email from the executive of the Hit Network, the boss. She writes, Seamus, tomorrow morning, 10:30, confidential meeting. I said, yes! This is it! The next line read, feel free to bring a support person. They called us in and said, tomorrow's your last show. So I moved back home with Mum and Dad. Now, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you a story about my cat. Who loves cats? My cat was so funny. Her name was Brandy, or Puss Puss. And she would hide underneath the couch, and every time you walk past, she'd go. Or we'd go for walks with the dog, and then we'd look behind us, and 20 metres behind us was the cat. I'm not following you, I just happen to be walking here at the same time. Well, things got a little bit weird and uncomfortable, because I'd go to the fridge to look, and I'd look at my cat, and she'd be sitting there with her butt in my face with her tail up. She'd be laying there with her tail. Like, I think the cat's hitting on me. But when I was 14, see, I hated school. I never wanted to go. I didn't like it. I wanted to stay in bed. I never wanted to go to school because I failed. I was constantly being ridiculed and I was never good at any of the subjects. And I remember one morning, it was cold. I had high socks, big boots, tie, big bag, blazer, and it was raining outside. It was freezing. And I'm inside. I'm like, I don't want to walk to the bus stop. And I looked at my cat, and there she was on the inside. And I was like, you bitch. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to do anything. You don't have a care in the world. You just have to lay there. So finally, when I got made redundant and moved back to Mum and Dad's on the dole, I became my cat. And I did nothing. It was the greatest. I would stay up late, watch 3 movies a day. I'd go to bed early. I'd go to bed whenever I wanted. I would have a drink on a Wednesday. It was the greatest. But what it did is it gave me time to stop and reflect over my 13 years. It gave me time to reflect over my journey and my adversity, my flaw, my setback, Tourette's. And I realised that, hey, that wasn't a flaw anymore. That wasn't adversity. That wasn't a struggle. That was just something I maintained. That's just something I managed. And there is no cure for Tourette's. If there was, I wouldn't take it. Because over this acceptance period of discovering who I was as a person and really accepting it, leaning into my personality, being confident about it, I learned to love it. It is now a part of me. I hated it because it made me different. I love it because it makes me different. It has given me so many different hilarious social situations. It's also built up my confidence because it's caused me to do some soul searching because of some of the ridiculing I've got not being able to build myself back up. In fact, it isn't a flaw. Now, it is a superpower. And as an ambassador for Tourette Syndrome Association Australia, I now go all over the country and I give this talk to say, hey, not to say look at what I did, but to say look at what you can do. Through accepting who you are as a person, developing a passion, and becoming absolutely determined, you can turn a flaw into a superpower. That elephant that I had on my back all those years ago, that thing that I hated. I heard a quote many years ago by a man named Desmond Tutu, who was a priest in the 80s, and he said, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." In our lives, we are faced with a giant elephant in front of us that we think we can't overcome. I'll never make it into that team. I'll never get that job promotion. I will never meet the love of my life. Whatever it is, there is an elephant. One bite at a time, and you will eat that elephant. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. Hit it, my friend, number 3. Dun, 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 dun. This is a story. I want to show you this picture. This is a story. When I heard this, I gave this talk at a school, and this is a clear example of a student who turned a flaw into a superpower. See, this yellow hat here, that's not a part of the school uniform. That's a hat that a kid got and put a school crest on. That's not a part of the school uniform at all. But the kid who started that, he was failing every subject. And he was considered dumb. And he wasn't an athletic child either. He was in the horrible D grade of every sporting team. And so if he wasn't an athlete, and if he wasn't an academic, then what was he? He was a square peg in a round hole. But he accepted that. And he thought, okay, that's not me. What am I? And he found his passion wasn't actually on the sporting team, on the field. In fact, it was on the sidelines, cheering on his best mates, cheering on his school as they played against the other schools. And what he did, he got that hat, put the school crest on it, and he cheered them on with everything. Come on, guys, you can do it. And what happened is other students, because he became determined, he was at every single game. And the other students said, hey, let's go follow that guy. And instead, what started happening over time is he was leading on a group of students, cheering on the school as they were playing the other schools. And the school started to win. And what happened after he graduated Year 12, he took that hat off and he gave it to someone in Year 11. He said, that's yours now. And then the year after that, that kid took it off and gave it to someone else. And then it got passed on again. And then again. And then again. 15 years later, that got passed on just recently. And I held it. And I said, this is disgusting. It was matted, it was tatted, it was ratty, it was gross, and writing all over it. I said, well, why don't you wash this thing, man? He goes, I don't want to rub the names off. Because every single person who did it, they wrote their name and passed it on to the next one. Now that student 15 years ago, that was me. I did that, I was that child. And the reason why I tell you this story is not to say, look at what I did at this school, but look at what you can do. When you accept yourself for who you are, when you discover a passion and you become confident and absolutely determined, you not only impact your own life, but the others around you. And you leave a tradition, a legacy, a culture. That still gets passed on down to this day. And it is not determined by the teachers, it is only the students. This neurodiverse kid who failed school, was always misbehaving, couldn't sit still. These students are everywhere in each school. 1 in 100 kids have Tourette's. 1 in 80 have ADHD. These are the potential leaders if we don't discover them. And that's how I turn my flaw into a superpower. And now I want everybody to stand up. So this is what I do at the end of every session. Yeah, you can stand up. Yes, you can. Now this is going to go on the tube. YouTube, that's, I've got the lingo. So hang out at schools, yo. ICPA. All right, ICPA. We are going to turn a flaw into a superpower. And we can do better. We can do better. If you're electricity, you can jumpstart a car. All right, we're going to turn a flaw into a superpower. Everyone, hands in the air. I love it. We're going to turn a flaw into a